4 of the Responsive and Rested Mama Show. I'm your host, Andrea Fallon, and I'm really excited to be sharing a topic today that I think is just an interesting one, to be honest. I had a lot of fun researching this topic because I think it's something that we maybe think about occasionally, but don't, really do a deep dive into. So we're going to be talking about following our natural instincts as mum. And should we just be following our instincts, or should we be guided by the information around us? And I did ask this question in the group earlier this week about what people thought about this idea. And actually, most people said that they felt like following your instincts was good, but you did also need some information. So let's have a bit of a talk about that and look into it. And I guess the best place to start is to look at what is a natural parenting instinct. So all animals have instincts. Spiders make webs, birds know how to build a nest. These animals just do it. They don't need to be told. They don't need to be given instructions. They just know. But in humans, actually, our instincts are much less defined. So when it comes to parenting, especially in the early days and months, there are biological changes in the body that do actually prepare us, and especially mothers, for the arrival of the baby. So for example, our hormone levels that help create feelings of love increase. In men, testosterone levels actually decrease. So it's interesting that, our bodies do prepare us physiologically for the arrival of a new little one. And I guess you could say we're biologically wired to respond to our babies. There have been shown to be changes in the brain for women that help them really focus in on their baby. And we know that, we have this stress response if we hear a baby cry, and, that feeling, it just kind of gets to you. And that's a physiological response in the body. And I guess you could say this kind of guides our instinct, this physiological change that happens, but it's still quite unformed. Now, Robin Grill says that parenting instincts provide petrol in the car, but not the map of where to go. And I love that. I think that's such a good description of an instinct in us humans anyway. So we know that people are very social, and we learn from others, and we're social beings. That's how we're designed to be. We were supposed to be living in villages, getting help from everyone around us, and we know that's not really what happens in modern day life. So parenting is really influenced by our instincts, but it's supposed to be shaped by the social norms and observing others, and we learn through role modeling from others. Unfortunately, at the moment, with our current modern lifestyles in Western culture, we miss a lot of that. And so that is some of the problem that we experience these days. But there's also a problem when we overemphasize natural instincts, or we overemphasize social norms or expert opinion. And this is something where society has tended to go, modern day society is more towards that idea of expert opinion as opposed to like simply cultural norms. But as you know, I work largely with families in the area of sleep and helping them with their baby sleep. And a huge problem that I see is that the social norms and expert opinion are much of what is promoted out there to do with healthy baby sleep conflicts with what actually feels right to mums. So we've got this instinct to comfort and respond. Like I said, we actually get a physiological response when our babies cry. But we're told by a lot of people around us, or by these experts, that some crying has to happen if our baby is to learn to sleep. And this causes a lot of stress and anxiety for mums. Now, in contrast to that, if you look at, say, breastfeeding, there's a lot of pressure or belief that breastfeeding is natural, that it's just something like your instinct should be there. There's this perception that as soon as your baby's born, you should just know how to breastfeed. You should just know what to do. And again, the instincts are there. We know that babies actually, if you've ever seen those videos of babies and the reflexes they have to help with breastfeeding, they can actually crawl up to the breast, and some of the reflexes they have to help them latch on and feed are amazing. But still, breastfeeding is a learnt skill for both mum and baby, to really get it right, but particularly for mums, it's a learnt skill. And mums have been relying on the support of experienced guides when it comes to breastfeeding since forever. And look, just anecdotally from my own clinical experience as a midwife, I've worked a lot with Aboriginal families. And I know this is a sweeping generalisation, but I've found that generally Aboriginal women don't seem to have as many challenges with breastfeeding as, say, non-Aboriginal families, because traditionally Aboriginal women have seen each other breastfeed a lot more. It's much more of like the, white Western culture where it's been all about covering up. And so when we don't see and we can't observe others, then we don't have that opportunity to learn, and we don't have that, that guidance that we need. So how can we find a happy balance? And this is the question. So I think most people did answer in the group when I asked this question that they felt that it needed to be a balance, that it needed to be balanced between having some information and following your instincts. So how can we find that happy balance between being able to trust our instincts and also learning what we need to? The first thing I think is really important, and I do talk about this quite a lot, is getting clear on your values. Because when you know what's important to you, then you can filter out the advice that you receive. And so this is really important when it comes to this, particularly with this area of sleep. There's so much advice, so much conflicting information, and so much of it, when it boils down to it, is the cried out strategies. And when that's not sitting well with your instincts, if you actually know what your values are, then that's going to kind of line up with your instincts, and it's going to make it easier for you. So you're not feeling like really, conflicted and confused and unsure on what steps to take. And if you're not sure about how to go through and work out your values, go back to episode 1 of the Responsive and Rested Mama Show, which is in the guide section of the group, because I went through that in some detail. Point 2 would be pay attention to the science. Neuroscience, the science of child development, tells us what happens with huge cohorts of parents and children. So we're so lucky now that we have research. Evidence-based medicine came about in the 1990s. And so we've got all of this research, and it's ever evolving, and particularly so exciting around neuroscience and child development, what we know now. But when we know what happens to really large groups of people, it can help guide our decisions rather than just, what happened to my neighbor's kid? What happened, like my best friend's sister's mum said blah, 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 and now they're telling me to sleep train and it worked for them and rah, rah, rah. Instead, look at the research. And if you're not sure how to analyze research, try and follow some people who are qualified to do that for you. And I do a lot of what I share, as much as possible, what I share is evidence-based in this group, but certainly there are lots of people out there who are sharing that kind of information. And the third point would be get support. Get the right support. Be aware of anyone calling themselves an expert, because parenting evolves and changes. Can any of us really ever be experts, would be my question. But often these types of people that call themselves experts are the types of people that will tell you should do this, you should do that, follow this rule, follow that. And really, we need to be guided by our instincts as well and our values, and not just listening to what these supposed experts tell us if it's not sitting right with us. And as I said, filtering that advice that's out there through your values and through feeling how it feels in your body with your instincts. And finally, be guided by your own emotional experience. So you might have heard the saying, the body keeps the score. And what this really means is that we hold in our body the emotional memory of things that how we have felt and what's happened to us. So if we reflect back on our childhood, now we probably don't remember being babies, but our body will still keep the score. We'll still hold the emotional memory of what it was like, how we were parented. And so we can reflect on how we were parented and use that to help guide us. Now, it might guide us to the good. It might, replicate how we were parented. It might guide us to the opposite. Maybe we don't want to be parented in the same way. So we can use those experiences to help, guide our decisions. And I noted in the group, a few people said, no, I don't really trust instinct because my mum, she wasn't great with us. She was snappy and whatever, and she was following her instincts. So trauma does come into this when we're traumatized by childhood or something that's happened to us. Sometimes it does. It impacts our physiology and it impacts, as I said, the body keeps the score, what's going on in our body. So sometimes that can throw different things up for us and maybe professional therapy might be needed. And so I'm not sure, I'm not entirely convinced that would change our instinct, but certainly it would change where we're coming from in how we approach things. But being mindful is the first step. Being curious is the first step in looking at our past and our own experiences and how that might shape and guide us. So let me know in the comments, does this, has this made sense? Has this been helpful? Have you heard about some of this stuff before? What are your thoughts about following your instincts? I'd love to know. And yeah, I really do believe that it's got to be a combination. If someone's telling you something that doesn't sit well with your instincts, don't listen, discard, that's okay. But also having a guide, having someone who can give you some information about what happens with large groups of people and can guide you through and support you in connecting what feels important to you. That's really important. And so if you're looking for that kind of support, do send me a message or head to my website. You can book a free clarity call with me. I'd love to chat with you about how I can support you in that way. But that's all for this week. It was a bit of a short one, but hopefully you found that helpful and interesting. And I will see you all again soon. Bye.